Yesterday, I wanted to sell the salon, and today I'm like, oh, I love it so much. Like, I got to do so many amazing things for my team, and we're progressing and doing great things. So it's a day-to-day basis on like how amazing does it feel and how are we doing.
You recently awarded the Salon Today Top 200 Salons in the country. Will you share with the listeners the category that you won in?
This year specifically was just so amazing because my team voted and they wanted culture. That was the application they wanted us to apply for. And they all submitted, like, why do they feel like our culture is above and beyond what any other salon is? To hear that, like, oh my gosh, you have been able to create a space that's safe. You know, we care more about them as employees. So when we won that, it was like extra special this year to be able to like celebrate that with them and that this is what they picked and they're so passionate about it. It was really great.
Welcome to Brazen and Bold. Today, we are sitting down with the fearless founder behind Ottalaus Salon, the beautiful AnneMarie Krainich. You have just around 17 years of experience in the industry and have accomplished so much. I'm really excited to share with our listeners some of your incredible insights. Welcome to Brazen and Bold.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. So the reason why I wanted to have you on the show is because we just had an organic conversation not too long ago. We're both going to be at a couple of industry events together. I wanted to see, hey, where will we overlap? Maybe we can grab dinner. And that phone call, the entire time as we're talking, I'm like, AnneMarie has so many good ideas, amazing insights, a ton to offer anybody in the industry, especially as it pertains to really building a luxury brand and figuring out how to lead an incredible team. So this is something that I think everybody will learn a lot from. And I'm just excited to have you on there. So just like all the episodes, it could be a pretty organic conversation. I mean,
Great.
when you started out nearly 17 years ago, or right around then, you had just a couple $100 going into this. I mean, this was like starting from zero to hero. From that, you have won multiple awards. You're based in the Salt Lake area of Utah. And as we were talking even about some of the events we're attending, like you're saying, I need some friends from the area to come with me. I want to elevate all the salons in the area. How did you go from that, starting out as a single mom, just getting your feet in this, to where you've landed now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it took a lot of just probably not knowing what I was getting myself into. First of all, I think you have to be a little blind to what it's going to take. But um, yeah, I think I just had a dream of what I wanted in a salon. And just personally, as a stylist, I wanted to work in something that was beautiful, had a great culture, like everybody wanted to come to work, and just the guest experience was elevated. And that was a little bit lacking in our market in Salt Lake. And so I couldn't find it. So I created it. And that's kind of where like it stemmed from. I never had this dream of like, oh my gosh, I want to own a salon. This is my dream. I'm going to move into that. It kind of got forced into like, I can't find what I want and what I want to have as a stylist. And so I created it.
Yeah, that's incredible. And that's how so many beautiful businesses and innovations are inspired and how they start. I would love to know, like, at what point were you working for another, we'll leave them anonymous, but were you working for another salon space? Were you independent? And what
Yeah.
was it that you actually saw lacking? Like that moment where you're like, I need to go get this. This isn't here and it's not where I'm not finding it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely leave them anonymous because, we
Hmm.
have to leave somewhere to usually start our own thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I had a salon that I actually loved. I would probably still be working there. And it checked most of the things off my boxes of what I wanted as a stylist. And the owner sold to someone else. And when that happens, things change. They have a new vision, whatever they want. Didn't quite align with where I wanted to be anymore. And so I left and just went booth rental. And all of my guests, as they came to the new place where I was renting, they're like, oh, are you happy here? Do you like it here? What are you like? Are you going to go somewhere else? So I'm like, okay, cute. They don't love it. And so that kind of got me started like, okay, well, I need to go somewhere else. and I couldn't go backwards. And so the salon that I actually loved working at went out of business and the space
Oh,
became available. And so it kind of felt like I was going home. I took over the space, started a whole new salon, gave it a facelift. So all of my guests who followed me through this whole process were like, oh my gosh, it feels like coming home. And so I've been able to like build that into something that had that base foundation. The owner did a really amazing job before she sold it. And so I got to build off of that. And so I had a mentor a little bit from her and then just grew it into, what my vision was and what I felt like as a stylist I wanted to work in. I've since mostly stepped away from behind the chair to like really build this for my team and like create that culture that I always wanted as a stylist. And so that was a little bit of our path to get to where we're at today.
yeah. I mean, and that's a huge leap. I'm sure in that beautiful kind of timeline, there were maybe this is just everybody else I know who owns a salon, but days and nights where you might have been like, "What did I get myself into?"
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
in the fetal position in your office at any point,
Yeah.
because that would be
I
like,
know.
raise your hand if that's ever
Yeah.
happened.
Maybe
Mid
that was
processing
this
for a
weekend.
client.
Yeah.
Okay, wait a minute. And if we can, I actually want to talk about it. You said that was this weekend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, you are at like a pinnacle of a lot of incredible things. And I'm not blowing smoke. This is just true. You're running an incredible business. You have amazing systems and structure in place, great processes. I know some of your support team that works for you with Spark, who's doing, but like,
Yes.
I know I've been in your space. What's really cool before AnneMarie and I started working together in Spark, I was able to be invited there as a guest artist through Goldwell. So that was our first
Nice.
time meeting was through that opportunity. And I believe you had 3 locations at the
Mhm.
time, and we were all in one
Yes.
space, and we're talking about connection, communication, and consultation. You're like, "I'm gonna close my salon for a day and have a class on this." And it's
Yes.
something I'm passionate about, but, like, you had me in there doing that. You got that stuff dialed in. Like, I'm not just saying this because, like, on paper you look good. Like, I've been there. I've seen the guts of your salon, met your team, and I'm saying the nice things right now because to hear that you were like, what did I get myself into, even as recently as this weekend? First of all, I'm sorry. And second of all, that gives me hope and probably anybody else listening. What the heck happened?
Yeah, I mean, like nothing in particular. It's just all the normal day to day things. I think, like, as an owner, sometimes we forget to take time for ourselves. And that was kind of like the break point for me this weekend is I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm burnt out. And,
Yeah,
it's more of like you take everyone else's stuff in, you're trying to like make it perfect for them, make sure that everything flows on the business side. And then, you go home at night family time, whatever, and just trying to juggle all that. I think I
yeah,
just got to a point where I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I forgot about me." And I just had to like reset and I took a personal day on Monday. I cleared my books and I was like, "Okay, we're resetting, we're getting back into this." So, I think no matter how long you are into this, whether it's in the beginning or like I mean, I'm 9 years down the road, like, that still comes up, and so I have to remind myself, like, "Okay, self-care is important, we need to make sure we're doing better, otherwise, like, the little things are what ends up being big things." So that was this
totally.
weekend. I think we it's a roller coaster ride, right? Like, yesterday, I wanted to sell the salon, and today I'm like, "Oh, I love it so much," like, I got to do so many amazing things for my team, and we're progressing and doing great things, so, yeah, it just is a day-to-day basis on, like, how amazing does it feel and how are we doing, but yeah, I think it happens for all of us, right?
It does, actually. It doesn't happen that all of us share that so openly and boldly. And that is why I named this podcast Brazen and Bold. Thank you for being so brave and bold in saying that because I know there were so many times where I'm like, well, they have it figured out. And like, what am I doing wrong? Why do I feel like I'm drowning? And it wasn't until I made more deep and meaningful connections with people in this industry and started getting to know people like yourself, where I was like, I've got something worth doing and something that I love and something I am passionate about. And when you said roller coaster, I'm not exaggerating. The last person I interviewed was like, it's a roller coaster. I don't think that's such a bad thing. It's just like if you expected to stroll along a boardwalk and you got buckled into a roller coaster ride, you'd be like, I'm gonna barf. I didn't take my Dramamine. Where am I? What's happening? Okay. But if you're like, I'm in a theme park, this is a roller coaster, you just kind of, I don't know about you, I don't love roller coasters actually, but when you sign up to go on a roller coaster, you know you're getting in line to go for the ups, the downs, the thrills, the spins, the unpredicted, all of a sudden drop straight down. And you
Yes.
can kind of relax into it because you know it's just a ride. You know, you're not going to fly off the wheels and die. Like, this is part of the experience. And so I think embracing that and like relaxing into it and surrendering into it, like buckle your seatbelt, maybe,
Yeah.
and take your Dramamine, but that's what you're in for. And
Yes.
thank you for sharing that because it's actually very empowering to hear that. And I think if more people could be as comfortable sharing that and when they're at the top of their game like you are and saying, Monday I had to take a day off. Thank you. Because it gives permission to everybody else to be like, okay, so though AnneMarie is a superhuman, she is actually also a human as part of
Human.
that title. So,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Um, you know, you recently, as you've spoken about culture, you recently were awarded the Salon Today Top 200 Salons in the country, which is a major distinction. Will you share with the listeners the category that you won in?
Yeah, it was culture, which is so great. Like we've won a few years in a row for different things, technology, growth, this year culture. But this year specifically was just so amazing because like I'll get my team's input, but I've always just kind of handled it. I'm like, oh, I think we're really great at this. But my team voted and they wanted culture. That was the application they wanted us to apply for. And they all submitted, like, why do they feel like our culture is above and beyond what any other salon is? And so it was so amazing to just hear, like going back to the roller coaster and a bad day, like to hear that all of their things of like, oh my gosh, you have been able to create a space that's safe. We care more about them as employees than like the bottom line. Just like all the things they all put input into like, here's why. And so we're able to submit that for the essay. So when we won that, it was like extra special this year to be able to like celebrate that with them and that this is what they picked and they're so passionate about it. It was really great.
It must be so rewarding. And like you mentioned, you have won multiple years in a row, which is no small feat. Hundreds and hundreds of people apply to be acknowledged or to receive that nomination. I know it took my salon 1 or 2 years, maybe 2 or 3 years of applying before we won this year, which is exciting. But um, that says so much about your team that that was their passion to like this is who we are, this culture, and that speaks so much to what your intention is. I also love the homage you paid to the original person who was your mentor, that wound up selling the salon, and that happens sometimes in the transition, the culture shifts. That they had most of what you wanted. That first
Yeah.
salon like checked a lot of the boxes, so you could take that incredible foundation and leap from that jump off point. And that was how it was with the salon I bought as well, where there were things that were going so well and there was things that needed to be addressed and changed for it to adapt and thrive and stay afloat. And it's very hard to navigate that. And like, your team saying, you care about us more than the numbers. That's so important that they feel that they matter, that this is people first. By the
Yeah.
same token, if you didn't care about the numbers, you wouldn't have a business for them to work at. You wouldn't be able to step away from behind the chair and lead them in the way that you're leading them. And so I'm curious, with your leadership or with what you're doing there, what helped you get from behind the chair to where you're mostly navigating, supporting your team? What was your inspiration to that? Or how did you know it was time to do that?
Yeah, I there's a few times throughout uh my journey as an owner. So I started as a rental salon originally because that felt easier. I had no
Yeah.
business education. And I started watching, I had applicants come and they're like, I can't do rentals, so I would really love to move into commission. I'd like to work with you. And so I started moving into that direction of understanding the business, getting a lot of education, going to conferences, understanding what other salons were doing, networking, so that I could learn how to run the business side of it. And I started watching these new baby stylists coming out of school who are like my entry level stylists, they were surpassing my renters in their technical skill set, in their financial drive. And because I was able to mentor them, because they, are employees versus my renters who are independent. And so I made a shift at that moment where I was like, okay, well, I don't want to do rental anymore because I can't support my team's growth. I just have control's probably not the right word, but I didn't have the ability to help support them the way that I wanted to. And so that was the first initial like shift for me is like I realized I really loved that. And I went from I was doing 5 days a week behind the chair and trying to manage all of this. And I realized I couldn't do that. Like, I just didn't have the time to give to these stylists that needed the mentorship. And so that's when I started taking days away from behind the chair and just moving towards um, more time coaching and mentoring and less time behind the chair personally.
Which I think is huge to see that need, to feel into it, to be brave enough to go for it. What were the steps you took to get there? Like, as you saw that happen, how long did that process take? I know you're behind the chair very, very limited still, but like,
Yeah.
that's hard for a lot of owners because they're usually the main producer in their business.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was so scary, in the beginning because I was probably the primary producer, especially being like a rental salon. And so I took a few days less, hired more commission. So it kind of moved like it was a slower transition. So I didn't just clear out my renters immediately. As they left, I hired more commission and employees, and then as I was building them, I took a few days less behind the chair. So it took me a couple years to get to a point where I just do like half a day a week now behind the chair, more just to keep my hands in hair and like feel artistic. But I'm spending all my time running the business now, in contrast to what it was in the beginning.
Yeah, and that's it's because you love it. It's because it's fun for
Yeah,
you. At
yeah,
that point, it's not necessarily a significant financial contribution. It's just like this is something. This is who you are, which I think is really, really powerful. Um, when someone walks into the doors of your salon, what is what you want them to feel right away, or what is the thing that you want people to say? Like, if someone's like interviewing them as they walk out the door, like,
mhm.
what is it like in there? What does that look and feel like for you?
Yeah. Well, our goal is that the guest feels like they're the most important person when they walk in. It doesn't matter who's interacting with them, if it's our front of house or the stylist or another stylist that's not even working with them. So we want them to feel like that they're escaping the outside world and this is like a safety place for them. So we've tailored our guest experience to that. So like the attention to details through our systems are like key points along their whole guest experience throughout the whole process. So it's not just like, oh, they got greeted. Now it's up to the stylist and just forget about them. Like, we're all doing little check-ins as we walk past. We'll stop, tell them like how beautiful they look if the stylist is on their finishing touches. We're just making sure along the way that everything they just feel so special.
That's incredible. How do you get that drilled into your team? Because you have right now you have 2 locations, right? So that's a lot. It's hard enough to get one location to be cohesive, to get people on the same
Yes.
page. What does it look like to lead your team? I mean, obviously you spend a lot of time in education with them, but what does it look like to get that consistency? How are you driving that point home so that your team embodies it for you?
Yeah, it starts with hiring. So I just through my hiring process, we have questions about what does guest experience look like to them. That gives me a good gauge on like, what have they experienced and maybe, what do they feel like would be a great experience on that level. And then we have a pretty rigid hiring process. So, first application step is like a pre screening question. So, they have to at least check off those boxes of how do they get their education, their support, what are they looking for in a salon. So, do they want a team environment? Usually, those people like want to drive systems and like learn how to be cohesive with the salon. And then we do a shadow interview. So then we also make sure like they get to see what the experience is like and what our team is like and how we support each other and there's not competition and we're helping the guest next to us whether we're getting commission or not off of that. And so
Nice.
they're seeing that whole setup first, so that's what they're introduced to. And then when hiring, we have systems, we have training for them to learn our guest experience and our expectations, and then we're following up if there's lack in any of the steps and process. Like, hey, just a reminder, I don't know, you forgot to put the towel on while they were walking back to the chair. Like any little detail that might take away from that guest experience and make it less than. We're giving them reminders. Everybody holds each other accountable, and so I think that that really helps. And just the consistency of like, this is what we expect. And then, we're really great about my management leads in a positive manner. So we're not reprimanding for not following through, but like kind little reminders. And then if somebody can't get it and they don't fit into that and that's not their value, then, it doesn't mean they're a bad stylist. They just aren't
Yeah.
right fit for us. So we cut those ties pretty quickly.
You've probably heard hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah. Yeah,
Sounds
we
like you
definitely
have that
live.
dialed in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we live
Yeah.
that for sure.
What does it look like? What are those education touch points? Are you meeting with new hires on a daily basis at their first week or two on your onboarding? Is it like weekly trainings? Imagine there's more than you involved in this process. So you have a pretty
Yeah, yeah.
robust team.
Yes, I have 4 managers across the 2 locations. So I have a guest experience manager. So she kind of runs front of house. She makes sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to. The guest gets the very best experience. And then I have location managers, and then I have a general manager. So she kind of has oversight. And then I also have education directors at each location. So they're really facilitating what kind of education needs to come in. And like we had you in for one of our education days. We close the first Monday of every month, and it's just for education. So sometimes that's our guest experience needs an overhaul. We need a refresher, color, whatever that looks like. But I when we hire, they start at our front of house, so they learn like our software, our guest experience, our luxury language. So they usually spend about 2 months there, and then they're moving into like an assistant position, and that's where they're really learning our guest experience behind the chair, the technical skill sets they need. We usually do monthly education specifically for assistants on top of our like team education.
Hmm.
So like education, sometimes I'm like, oh, we kind of go overboard, but I love it. And so there's like all along the way, and then they're meeting monthly with my managers for their key indicators. And then quarterly, they're meeting with me to like really strategize and coach and game plan. And like, where are we seeing that the numbers aren't looking really great? Or what feedback are we getting from their guests specifically that maybe needs to have some adjustment? So lots of touch points for us.
Mhm. Well, there are lots of touch points. And I think one of the keys to the success that you've experienced, it sounds like you have a lot of those touch points dialed in and then the people around to support them because that would be incredibly overwhelming. And someone who might run a smaller salon space or lead smaller teams might get by with a little bit less. But
Yeah.
that sounds, I mean, these are the kind of answers that aren't exactly not interesting. They aren't exactly sexy. They're not like, oh, that's exciting. I'm going to try that new flashy thing. And I think oftentimes
Yes.
that's what people like. They want to gravitate toward what's the quick thing that's going to, I want to win those awards. I want to be happy and successful and do that. And it's like, oh, you mean I've got to work on that for like 6 years and then
Mhm.
keep showing up to
Yeah.
the grind? you know
Yes.
and that's
Yes.
why there are so few salons that hit that caliber that you have. That's why even if there's something where there is a salon doing incredible hair and they're doing great work, they're not all members of these elite honors, and they're not all being recognized in the way that you are across the country, not because they're bad salons, or even as you mentioned, people who aren't a good fit for your team. It's not because they're not a great stylist or even wonderful. It's like that's just next level service and branding. It's incredible. So Yeah, I think that's awesome. I love how you lead with those questions too in hiring. Like, what does education look like, and what do you want to find out in their words what a team is? Because everybody can look great on a first interview or on a first day or on a first date, and you're like, you are checking all of the Chat GPT helped you prepare for this interview boxes, aren't you?
Yes.
But yeah,
Yes.
ultimately, I love that. I love that. And I love also that you're describing a team that leads your leadership team is setting forth positive reinforcement and talking about things in a positive way to make it safe. How do you think, besides just the overall flow, not everybody wants that high level of standard or expectation.
Yeah.
How do you create a culture that people want to be a part of? Like, how are you enticing people? Is it through like, hey, your compensation is this, or look how happy my team is? What is it that you think is attracting this caliber of people?
Yeah, I think we really shifted our social media to be geared more towards those kind of people that we want as our team. So they get a glimpse into like what does it look like on a day to day, what's our personality of our team, what kind of work are they doing, what is leadership, what are we celebrating. In turn, I mean, our guests really love that. They get a little peek into like who we are when, they're not around. But and that has really brought in a large amount of applicants and like the kind of people that we want on our team. They connect with that and feel like, oh, yeah, that feels like the kind of place I want to be. Or it probably detours some people who are like, yeah, those aren't my people. And so applications and stuff are a little more solid to attract those people that fit our culture and our team.
Hey, business owners. Yes, you. I know you're juggling it all: marketing, admin tasks, websites, podcasts, social media. The list never ends. That's where Spark comes in. We're a virtual assistant company built just for small business owners, because once you're able to delegate, we know you'll be able to dominate. Our clients are seeing up to 30% increase in social media engagement and sales, all by letting us handle the behind the scenes work. Not to mention an incredible boost in flexibility, profit, and time. So scan the QR code right now to schedule a free chat with my team. Let's make you efficient AF and help you focus on what you do best: growing and leading your business. Yeah. I mean, it's just as important to let people know who you're not for as it is who you are
Mhm.
for, because to
Yeah.
generically appeal to everyone out there who might be very talented at hair, it's really nice to be like, yeah, we're not for people who don't want to be collaborative or highly involved in education. When you're saying your education was overkill, I'm like, my heart is singing. Obviously, that's part of my work is educating. I'm so passionate about it, but also I think it does make such a huge difference, and it's a grind. But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
you're like, month over month, people are showing up. There's so much that comes from that effort. So, and I mean, some people might be like, I can't afford to close my salon for an entire day. Like, I would never want to miss out on that $10,000 day. It's interesting though, because the opportunity, what they're really missing out on is a lot more than that one day of dollar amount. And I think it's hard for people who are thinking more in that hand to mouth or like survival kind of like mechanics. They're not looking at how to expand, how to build, how to lead. You're like stuck staring at a tree, so you can't see the whole forest. And I think you figured out somehow to like really zoom out. Did you have a mentor? Was there a breakaway point when you were early on where you're like, this is worth investing in heavily as a leader? Or how did you make that shift? Because so many people have a hard time
Um,
jumping out of that.
yeah, no, so my husband is slightly involved in the business. He has a day job, he does other things, but he's my sounding board. And when I told him I want to make education a priority, he is my numbers guy. And he's like, oh my gosh, no. Do you know how much money we're going to lose when you
Yep.
close that many times like every month, all year long? And what we've found is, it's my business at the end of the day. I win. And he just says yes to everything.
I like
So,
that. I like that.
yes. So we love that. But he did, that was like a little bit of a concern for me of like, oh my gosh, we should really be doing it on Sunday when we're not opened instead of closing on a weekday. And, we had this internal struggle, like with my leadership team, we kept talking about it. And we just felt like there was a gap that just we couldn't fill. Like, there was always the same education gaps. There was always, the team always needed something that we just couldn't provide, or getting an educator in was so hard to get that on a Sunday. And so we just kind of hoped that it would work and we would be okay. I mean, it was a little bit of like lead with some faith, and
Yeah.
it paid off because what we ended up finding is, although we lost, like, obviously no revenue for that day, but those guests who would have booked on that Monday either booked the Monday before or the Monday after, or they scheduled throughout the week. So the lost revenue felt super minimal for closing for one full day. So it ended up balancing perfectly for us with that. And my team really respected the fact that we took a day during the week instead of taking away from their weekend. And
Yeah.
this was like
Yeah.
the day off. We were asking them to come in once a month. So we got more turnout for our education when we made this shift. And then the little bit of revenue that we did lose out by closing, I feel like it was worth the trade off for what we were
Yeah.
getting from my team.
I was about to ask, do you have any metrics? Because a lot of times people might be like, it feels like this is working. Like intuitively, I know this is a good idea, which it is. We can just go off of feelings, but facts don't
Yeah.
have feelings and numbers don't have feelings. Do you
Yes.
have any business metrics of like our retention for team members, like our churn rate, our turnover, like people wind up being with our brand an extra year, or the lifespan is longer, or maybe our average ticket price has gone up by 10%? Do you have any metrics like that based on your decision to invest in education?
Yeah, I mean, the metrics change based on the education we're offering that month. So, whenever you bring something in, the team's super excited. So, if we're talking
Mm.
about our guest experience, and like when we had you come in, our metrics for 2 weeks after that, for like our retention for that month, ended up going up. And so that's not always the case that
What?
it is
Kidding.
retention.
Tell me
Yeah. So, I
more.
mean, if you're looking for great education, Heather's it. But so yeah, and then sometimes it's retail and we're talking about a new product launch. And so all of a sudden our average retail ticket goes up. But I think just over last year was the first time that we did this. And I feel like for like everything overall, our guest retention definitely went up. We've also were working on classes and education specifically focused on that last year. That was like our primary thing that we're getting this dialed in. But I mean, our average service ticket goes up with the education, and like when it's a new service offering and add-ons, and so we usually try to like run those metrics on what parallels whatever
Yeah.
the education is for that month. And so
Yeah.
it's just basic key indicators. So utilization, retention, average service ticket, average retail ticket. So those are primarily what we track on a regular basis, but we always look at them differently based on the education that we're having.
Yeah. And I think that's important because not everybody's organized enough to see that. They're like, my team is happier, the vibe is better. It seems like it's going well, which by the way is pretty good. Like we can go off of that.
Yeah.
We're winning more awards and stuff and whatever. I think it's good. But I think it's really powerful that you have the organization and the systems behind being able to look into it and say, our retention went up as a result of closing that day for that amount of time. And if you look at the cost per acquisition of client, if you start
Mhm.
looking at the cost to train a new hire, like if somebody's with your
Yeah.
brand for 4 years versus 2 years, um,
Yeah.
their impact on your business bottom line. And I know we're talking people first, which is why you're in the position you're in, but also these numbers matter because anybody listening to this who owns a business, or even if they're thinking about owning a business, like you have to mind your numbers to
Yeah.
have the impact you have. You've got to have both. And it can be really hard because I do think it's hard to marry the two beautifully, where your focus is on the experience, the culture, the human component, and you're still totally kicking ass on the numbers and the metrics and the business piece. And it's a very delicate dance. And it's one that I think you've
Yeah.
mastered.
Yeah, I think the numbers tell the story. I mean, you can take a gut check of like, yeah, I feel like this is going really well. Sometimes it goes the opposite. I've had moments where I'm like, oh, I just feel like we're not doing very well. Like things are not feeling like we're progressing, we're not doing more revenue. Like I feel like we're falling behind. And then I pulled the numbers and I'm like, oh, we had growth this month. That's actually so amazing. So I think sometimes we can put our emotions ahead of the numbers and it should really be flipped. And to my husband's detriment, I have him do a scorecard every single week. So we're tracking our utilization, our rebooking percentages, our projection of revenue that is on the books for that following week.
Yep.
Um, Really just anything that is going to tell us what's going on with our business. We put that together every single week. And then as leadership, we have a meeting. We look at the numbers. We talk about, what are we seeing? Oh, it's really slow this week. Why? Well, like
Yeah.
what's happening this week? Oh, it's spring break. Okay, that's better. It's not
Totally.
because we feel like our team's not doing a great job. It's because everyone's on vacation.
Yep.
Or it's really low. Why is it really low? And so, what can we do to get our team motivated this week? Should we do a little promo for last minute bookings? And so it keeps us ahead of what's happening instead of like the month ended and we're like, oh my gosh, we did so terrible and I feel defeated. This way, it gives us the check like in real time and we can make real time adjustments. And um, using Spark, our VA, she can like send out a marketing blast for like the next few days immediately because we know our projection is low. So it gives us opportunities to stay ahead of that and a reality check of like what the numbers are telling us instead of like, oh, what I just feel like it's doing great. We're fine. We don't need to do anything.
Yeah. Well, think about like how many people who look veritably healthy have heart attacks and drop dead. I mean, way to take it real dramatic, Heather. But the truth is, how many people, or like they seemed okay, and then it's like, bam, lights out.
Yeah.
If we're
Yeah.
doing like a well check, if we're going in and doing an annual like blood panel and EKG and seeing how are all of our systems working, that
Yes.
can sometimes give us like a little, hey, looks like your cholesterol's a little elevated, or you're under a lot of
Mhm.
stress, or cortisol levels are high. Like sometimes
Yes.
these KPIs for the human body can help prevent serious illness. It's a difference between like waiting until you have a scare and you wind up finding out what's going on at the doctor versus like, I'm going to be proactive and look into what's going on. Cause you can feel really great and all of a sudden be like, I feel really bad. What's going on?
Yes.
Kind of nice
Yes.
to do that like pulse on what's happening ahead of time.
Mhm.
It keeps you from having a massive fire to put out or a giant leak that floods the whole space when you're like checking the pipes, checking the structure, doing like a little
Yes.
inspection. Like, how's everything going? You
Yeah.
don't just wake up one day and like the entire building crumbled. So
It's
that's
flooded. Yeah.
really, really smart. And like, again, that's not sexy. That's a ton of
Yeah.
discipline. That's
Yes.
boring to a lot of people. It's not like, I want to get new throw pillows for my couch in the lobby,
Yes.
which I also like.
Yeah.
But if you don't pay
Yes.
attention to those things, the throw pillows, well, they're going to get repoed when the salon gets foreclosed on, right? Like, so this stuff that's not sexy is the stuff that helps you do all the sexy things, which you're going to so many fun industry events. You're being acknowledged and honored, and you're on the cover of magazines. And don't you guys work with your local news station? And you're always somewhere doing something in a spotlight. You're a very normal person, by the way. She's a very beautiful, normal person for anybody who can't see the video. But like, you're a down to earth, reasonable person, but you are everywhere because you're doing such massive things. You couldn't do that without doing all the non sexy stuff, right?
Yeah, it's true. All of that stuff has to be the foundation, and then all of the fluff can be added onto that and have a little more fun.
Yeah. Well, and I wouldn't even call that stuff fluff because that stuff is cool, important, and builds your brand, but it is not going to get you anywhere if you don't have that back end dialed in, which that's really cool. So thank you for giving us a peek behind that curtain to see what it's really like back in that awesome place that you run. If you could go back to the beginning when you were just starting or as you started gaining momentum and started scaling, is there anything you can think of that you would do differently as it comes to the growth that you've experienced?
Yeah, I think what I didn't know is systems and numbers. And, I was running things on like, how does it feel? What's the team saying? Like, do they
Hmm.
feel like they're
Hmm.
successful? And so I didn't really know those things in the beginning. It took me lots of conferences, lots of networking, some coaching. So if I knew what I knew now and could go back, I would have started that way. I would have really like dove into the education of how to run my business and how to make sure it's successful and everything's moving the way it should. And the systems, I thought like, oh, it's not a big deal. And then as I got them built and we're always shifting our systems. Like our handbook is a live handbook. It's always getting edited. Everything's policies, procedures, all of that is always flowing and moving. And I wish I would have had that in the beginning. I wish I would have known that because I feel like I would be further faster if I would have started that way.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. One of my mottos is freer, faster. So I like that you brought up further, faster. I love the alliteration,
Yes.
but like further, faster gets you freer, faster. I'd like you to say that
Yes.
five times fast.
Yes.
Five fast, freer, faster, further, faster. That's a lot of F's, but I'm just thinking like when we can slow down enough to get that dialed in, we can absolutely skyrocket at that point, which is really cool. Also, you learned it pretty quickly. You adapted it and implemented it pretty quickly. So that's your favor to the world. If anyone hearing this is like, okay, I'll buckle down. And it is very
Yes.
hard. And sometimes it requires two full-time jobs where you're still operating behind the chair and super heavily involved in like the actual production part of your business to do that and set up systems on the back end to finally remove yourself from being on the production side of things. So it can be
Yes.
burning the candle at both ends, but hopefully it does equal more freedom and getting
It,
further and
yes. I
get
think
you
it
where you're at
does.
now.
Both of those for sure.
Yeah. Um, what daily habits or like what kind of things did you have to do to wrap your mind around um, to get you where you are today that made the biggest difference in your success?
Yeah, I have to schedule everything. Like I am scheduling personal time. I'm scheduling like every meeting. I my team jokes about this now, but it used to be if it was not on my calendar, I wasn't there, and that had happened way too often. And so I am every day checking my calendar multiple times a day. We're editing it. My executive assistant, she runs me basically. So again, going back to Spark, I have to have her do a little check on me every day, make sure I'm good to go, everything's
Did you eat your
working
lunch? Does she ever say, ma'am, did you
yeah.
pause to eat lunch? Okay,
Yes,
good.
yes, yes, all the things. And so that is like first thing in the morning, after, I'm getting going is like, what do I have today? What do I need to make sure I'm planning out intentionally? Like I said, making sure at the beginning that I am taking time for me. So that's a work in progress, obviously,
Yeah.
but that has really changed the way that I show up for everything is I can be present when I need to be there for the meeting, and then I'm moving on to the next one, or I'm taking some personal time, or whatever is going on, just to make sure that I'm doing all the things that need to get done because it's a lot to juggle
Yeah.
all of the stuff. And so I'm just making sure that I am where I need to be when I need to be there. And that's really helped
Yeah.
keep me organized.
The schedule is brilliant. Also, to function at such a high level, you've got to have that kind of support and those kind of checkpoints because it is a lot. It's not like though this is mainly your full time job leading your team, you still have a lot of other components of you. So that's I'm here to cheer you on the taking a minute to
Great.
pause, to hit yoga again, to walk your dog, to do something that
Yes.
feels like peaceful and restorative because I know how it is. And typically high achievers it's not that they don't value it, and it's not that they're like I've told my children, I am not a workaholic. I have things that need to be done in order to get where I want to go, and I value downshifting as much as I value going fast and ramping up. And so I know that it reminds me of like a pit stop in like what's it called? I don't watch those things, but where they drive around the track a lot really fast. Is it like Formula One or NASCAR? But like they're changing their tires. It might be a fast tire change, but they're changing their tires, adding fuel, getting their oil changed, and then going again.
Mhm.
And so I just
Yeah.
think like to perform at that kind of a speed, you got to pull in for a pit stop. So that's super
Yeah.
important. Um, Tell me what role giving back or charity work or anything in that nature has played in your business.
Yeah. This is probably my favorite part of all of it. Pre-COVID, we would partner with organizations that helped women who were kind of in these like awful life situations, domestic abuse, coming out of homelessness. whatever that was, that really just needed a push to like help them feel beautiful. And so we were able to do that. COVID really ruined that. You know, a lot of these organizations dissolved and what they were doing and how they were doing it. But we're relaunching. We call it the Fearless Project. And so we're working with shelters again and like women who are in these situations that are going in for job interviews or really moving into the next phase of their life. And they just need to feel confident and powerful and to be able to do these hard things. And so we're able to give services for free. And so my team volunteers their time and they do colors or haircuts and just help these women to just feel beautiful and confident so that they can move into these hard things.
I love that. And you have, one of your like taglines or it's real beauty is fearless, right? And
Yeah.
is that like the name of the organization or the way that you partner?
So, Ottalaus means fearless. So that's where that came from. I was a single mom opening up the salon, just kind of, it was a big risk. And as I got into it further, like obviously fearless resonated with me. I needed to be fearless to do what I've done. But women were saying, like, oh, like, I feel so empowered. Like, this, like, really being beautiful on the outside helps me showcase who I am on the inside. And so that tagline just kind of developed in over the years of like, real beauty is just being fearless. Obviously, how we feel and how we show up really matters. And then the Fearless Project is just, we're helping women to just feel that, to just feel fearless, to do those hard things, to move forward into, life where it feels like, almost impossible. And so it's such a small part of their journey. And it's just great that we can offer that. And it's like my favorite thing of what we do every day.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that it's hard to really adequately estimate the impact we have on people when we slow down enough to give back in that way. How beautiful that your team also volunteers their time. And I'm sure it has a lot to do with your leadership and your passion for helping empower women to get through those hard situations. And it's huge. It is so huge, getting through something. And yeah, it's fearless that you started your salon, single mom or not. That was fearless. If you had a whole army of people behind you and supporting you and funding you, it's still fearless. And to do it in the situation you were in when you started your business all those years ago, I think is really, really beautiful. And just to see what you've accomplished and where you've come since then is it's an honor. I know I've only really known you. When I taught your song was like 2 years ago. It was something.
Yeah.
It wasn't that
Yeah.
long ago, but it's been a little bit now. So we've had a chance to see each other at different events and just to get to
Yeah.
connect. And I mean it sincerely that the way you care for people is palpable. And you mentioned your social media, how you guys like to spotlight your team members and celebrate them. It's really, really fun to watch how you celebrate. First of all, how many people you have to celebrate, but it does showcase your culture. And I think how you care and how you lead shows up in everything you do. It's inextricable from who you are, and it's absolutely an honor to be able to even just know you and then to see and learn from that from a distance, to be a fangirl, to admire you. And so, thank you for doing that. I think anybody who wants to lead a beautiful team and to accomplish something worthwhile could learn a lot from the way you show up for your people.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. As we wrap up, I'd love to know if you could share one thing about you that people might not expect or something that could surprise people.
Um, I don't know. I grew up in a really small town, like a few hundred people. And so to go from like that to, being in hair and makeup and behind the scenes and fashion shows and all the things. And so I feel like it surprises people when I tell them that that's where I grew up and where I come from.
Wait, will you share? Where is this? That's a few hundred people. There probably isn't even a stoplight.
There is not even a stop sign. So,
Not even a stop sign? Where is this in
yes,
Utah?
it is in Utah. It's called Hinkley. So most
Okay.
people don't know Hinkley because it's so small. So that like the next like closest town would be Delta, which is also like has one stoplight. It's very small.
Never heard of either. So
Yeah.
teeny tiny.
Yeah.
And I have family
Yeah.
that lives in Utah and I've driven up there every summer since my childhood.
Yeah.
So small
Yeah.
town.
It's so small.
Okay, I love that. And, you've kind of gone from that to fearlessly leading a brand that is continuously growing and inspiring others and being on bigger and bigger stages, just accepting awards, if nothing else, for what you've accomplished. So I love it. It's been
You.
such a pleasure to spend the better part of the last hour with you, and also just for any chance we get to connect. I'm so excited to see you at two upcoming events. We get to see you at
Yes.
Intercoiffure in Montreal,
Yes. So
Magnifique.
excited.
And then also, it's my first time there, and
Mhm.
also at Data Driven. So thank
Yes.
you so much for being part of the show and for sharing more about the fearlessness with which you lead and how you've accomplished what you have.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. It's been so fun.
Yeah, thank you.